right, we're going to get started. Let's go ahead and get started. Good. Can you hear me? Clap if you can hear me. There we go. Oh, that works. I can't whistle, so we'll go with that. Okay. So let me just start by saying the energy in this room is unbelievable, and I don't know why this is the first time that we've done something that brings all of our women athletes together in one space, but I can assure you it will not be the last. So thank you all for being here. So I think most of you know me, Jen Baker, Director of Athletics and Recreation here. I want to start tonight off by offering some thanks. ESPN is here for you. They want to be here for you. Some of our incredible women alumni are here for you. They wouldn't be here were it not for the incredible efforts of Nikki Betts, standing in the back. And the incredible support team she has brought with her. So we have lots of other administrators from our team in the back. We have Rachel Hernandez, Vice Provost for Student Affairs. We have our athletic communications team here. This is being streamed. You are on TV right now, ladies. So let's talk about why we're here. I know you're like, whatever, all my games are streamed. It's not a big deal. Okay, so you're here. ESPN is here. Some of our own Hopkins Blue Jays alums are here to inspire you, to empower you, and to send you out of here with some great ideas about where you're going to take this experience next in your lives. And you're all at a different point. I know we got first years here all the way up to grad students here. But this is where I want you to think a little bit about the experience you're having. So I have said often that I think the purpose of college athletics is education. We exist on a campus that is here to educate you. We provide a different kind of education. The education you get in athletics is much more about who you are as a person, and it helps you to discover the best of yourself and to be in an environment where you can push others to do the same. But what do you do with the best once you've discovered it? Here's the thing, you all are going to change the world in your own unique, special ways. You're going to take everything that you've learned here at Hopkins in the classroom and on the field or in the pool or on the court, wherever it is, and you're going to go off and you're going to impact whatever community you choose next. You are literally going to change the world, and that's for each and every one of you. So I don't know exactly how many of you are here, but let's think about the additive effect of that. This is the other thing I can tell you. I don't know, I hope it happens often, I can't promise it will. I don't know how many times in your life you're gonna sit in a room with this many powerhouse women all together. But I want you to appreciate what you have right here, because I know these are the folks you see day in and day out. You live together, you go to class together, you're on teams together, and it becomes easy from time to time to sort of take it for granted that these are just your people. You all collectively are going to change the world. You are some of the most powerhouse women in this country right now. You are earning a top 10 education, and I know you're competing for championships. That's a rare combination, and it's a really special one. So I'm hopeful that what you get out of tonight's experience really gets you thinking about, what do I want to do with this? Where do I want to go with this? Who do I want to grow into next? Because the possibilities are unlimited. So with that, I'm very excited to announce Jane Bullock is here from ESPN up in New York, and she's going to lead us through the rest of tonight. So please give a warm welcome for Jane.
Move this chair out of here. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to espnW Campus Conversations. I'm so happy. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. We're so happy to be here with all of you tonight. It's awesome to see. I love the light blue. Wait, what's the shade? Is there like a specific name? Hopkins. Fine. It's your own blue, very special, that's fine. But I love the Hopkins blue. It really pops, and this room looks awesome, and it's so great to see all of your faces. So our hope is that you walk out of here tonight feeling supported, confident, energized when you think about life after college. I want to share with you a little bit about espnW. Our goal is to give sports fans compelling content and fresh perspectives on the important issues of the moment. So that's everything from sharing deeply reported long-form stories about really, really important issues to talking about Taylor and Travis right there along with you guys. So we really do it all, and we're proud of it. But I think the best way to bring espnW to life is to show you. This is a quick look at our brand campaign called That's a W. It celebrates the daily victories, personal triumphs of women on and off the court. And I know these are things that you know a lot about, so let's take a quick look.
Our way has never been just one way. Icons, mothers, teammates, first-timers, and never missed a gamers. We're the firsts until we're the legacies, the few until we're the millions, the dreamers until the dream gets done. We're not stopping anytime soon, and we're bringing the world with us. That's our way.
Okay. We'll have some That's a W swag items for you on your way out, so please don't forget to take them when everybody leaves. And we hope that you'll join the movement yourselves by using hashtag That's a W on your social channels to celebrate your own accomplishments and accomplishments of women that you admire. So in addition to the content that we produce, we also have an event series of which Campus Conversations is part. So since 2016, we've done about 50 of these, and we've seen almost 10,000 female student athletes. So we're really, really excited to welcome you into that fold. So what can you expect tonight? We are obviously here to talk about life after college. All of you have different goals. Some of you may know exactly what you want to do. Some of you have no idea. There's probably a lot of you in between, a lot of questions, maybe some fear. We'll get to all of that tonight. We have an extraordinary moderator here to help guide us through all of this. Heather Dinich has a wide variety of responsibilities at ESPN. She's a senior writer covering national college football for ESPN.com and a studio analyst. She's also a regular contributor on College Game Day, Sports Center, and Get Up. She is a proud graduate of Indiana University, but is no stranger to this part of the country. Her first real internship was at the Washington Post, and she's also worked at the Capital Gazette before starting at the Baltimore Sun, where she covered University of Maryland sports. She still resides in the area, and we're lucky to have her. Heather, come on up.
Or go here? Okay, so, okay. All right, can you guys hear me okay? I am thrilled to be here. This is so fun, and you are an amazing, talented group of young women, and it is an honor to be part of this important conversation. But the stars of the show tonight are some familiar faces that you might remember. We'll start with Haley Wrights, a 2021 Hopkins grad and former standout lacrosse player. Let's hear it for Haley! I love this energy. All right, let's see if we can keep that for some basketball going on. We have Julie Wilson, a 2007 graduate, former hoopster. And we have Dr. Robin West, a 1993 graduate and former swimmer. And my esteemed colleague at ESPN, Rosetta Ellis-Pillier, I will say, is the Vice President of Talent Development and Negotiations at ESPN. So that was a very brief who they are, but let's just go down the row and tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Hi everyone, I'm Haley. It's great to be back. Some of my teammates actually are in this room, so it's super fun to see everyone. As Heather mentioned, I graduated in 2021 and I played lacrosse here at Hopkins. I currently work at Goldman Sachs in New York City in the private wealth management department, and I've been there for almost 3 years now.
Hi, I'm Julie Wilson, 2007 women's basketball alum. Let's hear it for the Lady Jays. On a tear this season. I was an ROTC cadet here at Hopkins, so started my career a little non-traditionally in the Army. I spent 6 years on active duty as an intelligence officer and then transitioned into corporate America. So changing careers and worked in aviation, in marketing, business development, and sales, as well as business leadership. And I'm actually about to change careers again. So a next act on deck. I live in the DC area, and I'm excited to be here tonight. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin West. I am a 1993 graduate, so a long time ago. I'm a swimmer. I was a swimmer here. And as an orthopedic surgeon, I do sports medicine. So I've been in the NFL. I've been the team physician for about 18 years in the NFL and in Major League Baseball for about, I think, 9 or 10 years now. So had a lot of different experiences. I take care of a lot of high school, collegiate athletes, and so thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rosetta Ellis-Pillier. It's great to be here. I am the non-athlete of the group. My background is I'm a former military veteran. I am a lawyer, and I now oversee the talent office at ESPN. So great to be here.
I think the fact that we have 2 military veterans on this panel alone is outstanding. And on behalf of everyone in this room, we thank you for your service. And I mean that sincerely. That's amazing. And I will say a little nugget that I learned when we were prepping for this is that Dr. West was an orthopedic surgeon for the Steelers when they were going to the Super Bowl. So clearly we need to get her back there to fix things in Pittsburgh. But we'll talk about that after. 3 times, see? Oh my goodness. Yes, I love it. Well, let's start with your frame of mind. Haley, I'll start with you. What do you remember coming out of college in terms of entering the real world? What concerns you had coming out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think being a student athlete, you're constantly surrounded by your team, which is really your community, and kind of going off into the real world for the first time. That's really what you're lacking. You may move to a new city. I know I graduated during COVID, so all of my teammates opted for 5th year. So I really was one of the only ones even graduating, not coming back to Hopkins. So I think start building your brand now, because definitely something, one of the biggest challenges you face in the real world is not having, 20 of your teammates surrounding you at all times, not having people cheer you on constantly, kind of becoming your own cheerleader is definitely one of the biggest challenges I faced.
Julie, how about you?
Sure, yeah. When I got started, I kind of moved from one team to a different team, the United States Army. But anywhere you go, you're joining an organization, and hopefully those organizations that you join, whether it's graduate school, that first job out of college, whatever you approach it like your next team. You're going to have opportunities to make an impact. You might just have that, lowest level associate title wherever you are. I think about it, as far as being a freshman coming in and not necessarily knowing, okay, what is my role going to be on this team? You're going to find opportunities to fill gaps, no matter what, and no matter how insignificant you might perceive them to be initially. Just know that it all matters and it all builds your experience in a really productive way, meaningful way, not only for yourself, but for whatever organization you're a part of.
I agree with both of you. You know, I think that that teamsmanship, right, and having your friends and your partners, everyone around you, and also the structure of sports, right? The structure, so you know exactly what you're doing each day. And that's what changes. So when you leave college, all of a sudden you don't have that structure, and you don't have we're so used to being so busy all the time. I was lucky I went to medical school right out of college, so I had that structure, I had that teamsmanship, really. And so I didn't have to jump right into the real world. But my friends who went into the real world really experienced that quickly. But I think the most important thing is maintaining these contacts and staying in contact, right? That's what's really important, because you never know who you're going to need in the future, right? So you want to be able to reach out. We always call it that black book, right? Have that list of phone numbers. How can you reach all your friends and your colleagues and your teammates to reach out to?
I echo what everyone has said, and I'd say definitely maintain relationships, build relationships, because there's people now that, you know, I speak to or I met later in life that were able to kind of just be a resource, open doors for me. And, you know, when we met, you know, you never envisioned that you would meet them later and that they would be in this position. So I think it's really important to just really, you know, learn all you can, meet people, and really maintain relationships as you grow and move on in your careers.
Rosetta, how did the opportunity to get into sports open for you, and just what was the path? Because sometimes everybody wants to get here, and you start here, and you think you're going to go like this, but you go like this.
So I have an interesting path, because when I got out of law school, I worked a few years, and I so wanted to be in the sports industry, and I couldn't get in. I mean, I tried and tried, you know, I would try to network, and I couldn't get an interview and just didn't know why. So long story short, I found a job that was not in sports, gave up, and then years later, a job at ESPN actually opened up. And a friend of mine said, hey, I remember when you used to want to get into sports, there's this great job at ESPN. And by now I was overseeing a multinational labor and law practice for a company. It opened up, hey, you should apply. And I actually said no, because by then I liked the job I was doing, I was established. And so that job, it was filled by somebody else. It didn't work out, and 3 months later, it became open again. And that same friend said, you know, it's still open. This was meant for you. Go do it. So, you know, what's the worst that can happen? You'll meet some people that you like, and then move on. So, long story short, I interviewed for it, met with 11 people. I still remember that day at ESPN, and I remembered why I wanted to be in sports. So then I had a decision to make, because I would be taking a pay cut, a title cut, but I didn't want to look back, you know, 5, 10, 15 years from now and say, you know, I wish I would have taken that thing that I always wanted to do. And I took it, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Dr. West, along those lines, how did you find something, or did you know that you wanted a career that would still keep you in sports?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think I always wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon and go into medicine. And then I was at Hopkins and I was swimming, and my freshman year I got mononucleosis. I don't know if you guys know about it, but mononucleosis, your spleen gets enlarged. And when your spleen gets enlarged, you can't play a contact sport. So our team physician's like, you can't swim. I'm like, swimming is not a contact sport. Like, I can still swim. And then he said, no, you can't swim, because if you get kicked in the stomach or you dive in or something happens, your spleen can rupture. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I was 3 or 4 months in. And so I was like, what am I going to do? I mean, athletics had really defined me. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll just go work in the athletics training room. I can at least be around the athletes and be around this team environment. So I started working there, and then I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved working as a team, the athletic trainers, the orthopedic surgeons, going to surgery, working with the athletes. And really, it was that team environment and helping everyone get better. And so then that's when I realized I really like the sports aspect of medicine. So went into medical school, and that's how I went into it. And then I did a fellowship in sports medicine, and then pursued this career.
And Haley, Dr. West mentioned something that was interesting, because you all spent probably most of your lives right now going to practice, playing games, and doing that over and over again. How do you process that mentally when that stops?
Yeah, absolutely. pretty much all of your collegiate career is exactly that. Your weeks are practicing for maybe your Saturday game. Everything's in preparation for that, and then you have your big match. And I think how I've kind of translated that to the real world is, say where I work now, we have client meetings, maybe on a Friday or Thursday or whatever day it may be, but it's exactly that. A lot of the skill sets I took from preparing for a match. Okay, who on the other team is my matchup? I need to learn everything about the way they dodge, how they like to go to goal, everything, how I kind of studied and practiced and prepared for a game. I took the same level of seriousness and dedication and kind of diligence for my now client meeting. So I'm learning everything about the client's portfolio, knowing everything like the back of my hand. So when game day comes, or what's now a meeting, I don't have to look at my notes beforehand. I'm fully prepped. And really, it's that over preparation, I think, that I learned how to do in college has served me very well in my corporate job now, because if I get assigned to a project or a work task, it really, my kind of boss or anything knows that I'll do all of that preparation, and that they can have faith in me, similar to how my coach would have faith in me for the game.
And then when you get to your job and you have colleagues who can't process time management, and you're like, you can't, this is what I did for my whole life. This is when it's due, and so you kind of have a little bit of an edge over people who might not have had that discipline for X amount of years. Julie, did you got something you want to add to that?
I mean, Haley really said it well. I don't know if I have much to add, but Heather, as you expressed, there are a lot of skills that you all are practicing day in and day out that you might not necessarily realize translates to whatever career or academic setting you'll find yourself in next. Haley talked about the art of preparation, right? Preparing yourself, investing in the run-up, the rehearsal to whatever that game time is. And that translates and is applicable to so many different settings. And then the other thing, too, is just like ownership, right? You all are in the arena. You own the outcome of your contest. Okay, not everybody is graduating college with that mindset. That whatever happens on this field or court, right, like I did that, good, bad, or indifferent. And you own it at the end of the day. And that's important because there are people who are afraid of owning their stuff. And it doesn't matter if you fail in the real world, if you have a project at work that doesn't go so well, people will cower and break down and just break apart. You all won't, because you've been there, you failed before, you've had a loss. But you pick yourself up and you compete again, because that's what we do, right? And you try harder the next time, okay? Do not diminish how you rise from a setback, whether it's an injury or a loss or anything. It's super valuable.
Rosetta, did you have any setbacks on your path that you can think about?
I'm sure I've had some. I mean, none that's coming, quickly to mind, but what I'll say is that, I've made mistakes just like anybody. And, one of the first things that I did when I took over this position to tell my team is, you're going to make mistakes. No one's perfect. Everyone continues to learn. What you do is just admit them and move on. And that's pretty much how I try to operate. And you learn from them.
Dr. West, how do you feel like the experiences that you had as a swimmer did help prepare you for what you do now?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing we've been talking about, the time management, the resilience, right? I mean, because we've had all these ups and downs, wins and losses, and getting back, right? And getting back up on your feet and doing it again. And then again, the confidence, I think, and building confidence. Sports build confidence, right? And your physical strength and your mental strength. And so I think that if you can carry that through to whatever you're going on to, that's what sports adds. And again, when I'm looking to hire a new surgeon or hire somebody else in my practice, the athletes always stand out. And the athletes stand out because of that, because of their great communication skills, their leadership skills, again, their resilience. Those things stand out very obviously to me. And I don't even have to ask them if they played a sport. You can just tell right away.
And if I could just add to that, one of the things that I find are that people who are athletes are very coachable. They take constructive feedback and they use it, and they're amongst the most coachable because that's what you do to get better. So I do find that.
Julie, I'm curious more about your path, just sort of a non-traditional trajectory that you had. What was it like? And you have children as well, right? So tell us a little bit about that re-entry into it.
Yeah. So when I left Hopkins, I went straight into the military, and then I was faced with another transition about 6 years later. The military makes it very kind of emotional to like separate as an officer. You have to resign your commission, and it's a very significant emotional event. But when I was transitioning, I made a point to make sure that I was reaching out, far and wide to my networks, my fellow veteran network, my Hopkins network, and folks from home to just get as much information as I can. I ended up transitioning with the help of kind of a veterans hiring firm that landed me with a great company. Cessna Aircraft Company makes little airplanes up to business jets, and it was a world that I was like, that sounds really cool. I'm gonna go check that out. And little did I know I was moving to Wichita, Kansas to do that. So, don't think that you're going to New York City and, working in Midtown, because there might be opportunities that take you to, far corners of the nation, and are great experiences. That company has been great to me. I've worked for them for almost 11 years now between our aviation segment and our DoD defense contracting business. For me, I was called on to take on a lot of project leadership that required a lot of change management. Process changes, people changes, mixing teams, bringing teams together, and my career was very linear up until a point. I had my second child, and I was actually given a promotion that I didn't really ask for because 2 business units came together, and it was like, Julie, here's another team in another location. After trying to manage that for about 6 months, I realized, like, hey, this was the season of my life that I didn't really want more responsibility. And I went to my boss, and I let him know how I was feeling, and I learned 2 things in that moment. One, I was doing a lot better job than I gave myself credit for. That, even my 70% that I felt was 70% was, almost, top of what he would have expected from me anyways. And secondly, that, when you come to, your team, your leader with that challenge, you will be faced with a lot of support. And he helped me find a self-directed step backwards. So I moved from our DoD business segment back to aviation in an individual contributor role, a role that I actually had never had. With my company, I'd always been leading people, but I took a role that gave me personal flexibility and a lot less kind of leadership responsibility for a time period that I needed to focus on my kids and my family and allow myself kind of the time and space to figure out, what did I want my career to look like now that I had these 2 little people depending on me too. And what that did for me was actually, gave me the time and space to reset. It helped me recognize in a less stressful capacity that I love working. I love leading people. I wanted it back. And a year and a half later, I was leading people again and got promoted again. And now I lead the entire U.S. sales organization of the team that I was once the individual contributor, to. And in that time, I was able to get my executive MBA as well, all while having 2 little kids. So just to let you know that, like, your seasons of life will change. You will want different things at different times. You don't have to have all things at the same time. And, I still consider a lot of career left to see, what will my 3rd and 4th and 5th acts be.
So this young lady here, so we're on this Zoom prep call, and I see her for the first time, and she's sitting there with her hair pulled back. She's got this little headset on. She looks like a boss lady, right? New York City, right? New York City.
Yeah, New York City.
It's unbelievable. I told my husband, like, you should see this young woman. She looks like she's like in an HBO show on the Zoom. She's like oozing success. So how did you get your job?
Yeah, absolutely. So the story of how I got my job is similar to actually how I got to Hopkins. So take it back to when I was in high school. For lacrosse at the time, you basically, to the top 20 schools, you got recruited your freshman, maybe sophomore year if you were late. And I found myself, it was the fall of my senior year, and I hadn't committed anywhere. I didn't have anywhere to go to school. I wasn't committed anywhere. And I reached out to Hopkins. I sent them a video. I said, hey, I know this is probably 0% chance, but watch my tape. I'd love to come to your school if there's a spot. And long story short, through a lot of conversations and visits, they made an extra spot for me my senior year, which all of the other girls in my class had been committed since their freshman year, so for years at that point, which is pretty much unheard of. And then now for my company, the only way they hire is straight from undergrad is through their returning intern class. And I did not intern at Goldman this summer after my junior year, so it was pretty much closed. They weren't posting applications, nothing like that. But I stumbled across private wealth management just from kind of figuring out what I didn't like from my 3 previous internships. I didn't want to kind of be on Excel all day, not talking to anyone. I wanted to be client facing. I had an interest in the markets, so I wanted to be in that. And I came across private wealth, which I'd never heard of. My family's not in finance. Not a lot of Hopkins grads are in finance. So I cold reached out on LinkedIn to someone who didn't play athletics at Hopkins, but was a Hopkins grad. And they put me in touch with someone else, who then put me in touch with someone else, who then put me in touch with someone else. And I cast a wide enough network that enough people were then vouching for me from inside the company to where they made an extra spot for me the second time that's happened in my life. Kind of unheard of and super, super rare. But they made an extra spot for me, and I was the only full-time hire who did not come from the previous intern class. So kind of what those stories, like I think what the takeaways are one, the power of network. Having a strong network is probably the most important tool when you're trying to find a job. Having someone kind of on the inside vouching for you is game changing. And you don't have to have a parent or a family friend or someone in the industry you want to go to. It can be a simple LinkedIn message to someone you're not even connected with. And as long as you have a good story, you make a good impression, always ask if they can connect you to someone else, and they most likely will. And then secondly, the power of resilience. You guys do it every single day. It's one of the most important parts about being a student athlete. It's the saying, you fall down 7 times, stand back up 8. It really is true. And just never seeing anything as impossible, seeing it more as a challenge, and how can I put myself in the best position using a network to get to the end goal that I want.
Dr. West, I think you said 6% of orthopedic surgeons are women. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What are the challenges that come with that in terms of breaking into a male-dominated industry?
And also, it's in sports medicine, it's even lower. So working in the NFL and in Major League Baseball, I was one of 2. And so it's a very low percentage of women. Obviously, times have changed, because this was a long time ago when I started, but things change a lot. But I was thinking about it, and I have lots of stories that I can share, and off camera as well. But I was just thinking about my interview process, even just the simple process of applying to residency. And the questions getting asked, like, are you strong enough to be an orthopedic surgeon? Are you gonna have a baby when you're an orthopedic surgeon? Or you can't dress too well because it's all men, and I mean all these things, right? And then I remember even my first day of medical school, I go in and we're learning how to scrub. So I'm at the scrub sink, and I'm meeting the orthopedic surgeon, the chairman of the hospital. And so I go up to him and I say, "Hi, I'm Robin. I was so excited. I'm going to go into orthopedics. I'm a medical student." And he said, "Oh, Robin." He's like, "You've got nice." Well, I won't say the word, but he goes, "Can you wear a size small scrubs?" And I'm like, okay. And then I walked away and I was thinking, okay, well, I guess this is how it's going to be, but I'm just going to, go above and beyond it. And so this continued to happen like throughout the training, but you have to just stand above it, right? And again, I gave it back to them, or I just ignored them and just kept doing my work. And my mom always raised me to you have to be better than a man, right? Be better, do your job better, right? And she raised me that way, to just be the best you can be. And that's what I've always kind of stood by. And so, again, just standing, doing the best thing that you can do, and being honest and asking for help when you need it.
Rosetta, can you explain to people exactly what your role is at ESPN? It's an amazing title and it's an amazing job, but I mean, Stephen A. Smith, he has a contract. This woman, she played a pretty big role in that, right?
Sure, exactly. So I oversee a talent office, and part of what we do, or a large part of what we do, is negotiate on-air talent deals. So that involves having relationships and speaking with agents, fixing the deal terms, knowing the business sufficiently to know, where our needs are and, where we need to fill gaps or supplement. But it's a lot of really, a lot of relationship. It's relationship based. And I started on the legal side, so I've seen both sides of the coin, where I was actually drafting the contracts after the deal was made. So in the talent office, you are making the deals before you send it to the legal side. But I mean, it's rewarding. It's I work with a lot of great people, a lot of great talent who like Heather. But it's fantastic. It really is.
When people watch ESPN, they see a lot of former athletes on TV. What is the transition for people who play? We see a lot of women's basketball players as commentators. How do you make that transition?
Well, I think, first, it's people who really, are stewards of their sport, right? And so they can talk about it, anyway till Sunday. And I'm sure you can speak a lot to this, just from your background. But as I mentioned before, we find without almost fail that most talent who've played a sport, professional or some level of sport, that they're very coachable and they really take in feedback. So when they're getting feedback from production or whoever it is that they're working on, they work on it and they hone it to where, they're just, it's effortless. So I would say it's a learning process, especially if, you didn't grow up going through a communications program and you're coming in off the playing field. But it's work. It's hard work.
A learning process, even if you did go to a communications program, because I came to ESPN writing for ESPN.com and transitioned to more of a TV role when the college football playoff began a decade ago, and it was a lot of learning because print journalism is very different from broadcast journalism, so it's definitely learned skills. Julie, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Could I ask Rosetta to provide what piece of advice would you give these girls in negotiating a contract? And what do you see that women do wrong?
How much time do we have about the first part, not the second? So one, I would say, know what your non-negotiables are. You have to go in knowing what you are not willing to give up, and knowing what you can kind of live with. And really, people think that negotiations have to be adversarial, and that's not how I operate. It's collaborative, and I always try to be fair. You need to really do your homework, because you need to know the ins and outs of what you're negotiating about, and that makes you a better negotiator. I mean, there's a long list of things I probably could get into, but I would say primarily just really know your facts and know what your non-negotiables are.
Julie, when you look back, is there anything that you would have done differently while you were in their seats to help prepare you for your post-college career?
Yeah, I would have done a lot of things differently, but I think the thing that is different today is just that there's so much more knowledge and awareness of your network, and you have tools tools that the athletic department and the university have set up for you, whether that's the One Hop platform, LinkedIn, hopefully your team and your team's alumni networks. For me, I mean, I had a different path set out for myself, but I did a terrible job of just understanding the power and experience of my own teammates' parents. I wish I could go back and like invite them to lunch and be like, Mr. Davis, how do I get a job on Wall Street in iBanking or wealth management or whatever, right? Because that might have changed my decision making, and maybe I wouldn't have served. I don't know, but I think I would have leveraged the people in the room and understood how much power I had at the time of just being here and being in the room, and use that thinking, not just graduation, but 10, 20 years post-graduation. And I would have invested a little bit more in the relationships across the board and across the entire university. I think I did a pretty damn good job anyways, but like I would have been a little bit more strategic about it.
Haley, since you're the most recent grad, I'll give you the last word here. Are there any resources on campus that they should use or advice that you can give them?
Yeah, I think as a student, it's kind of easy to overlook what's being pushed to you. Maybe there's other things going on campus that might sound more fun, but really it's never too early to start taking advantage and attending the workshops, attending the things the Life Design Lab puts out, because being early and again prepared always serves you well in the long run. And I think again it's easy to go to something like this and hear the advice and acknowledge it and agree with it for 15 minutes, but then I think what actually makes it effective is applying it to your own life. So whether that's you go home tonight and just write down your top 3 bullet points of what you learned tonight, or top 3 takeaways, and then maybe put it on a sticky note in your mirror so that you're forced to look at it in the morning, just to have a reminder. Taking action is really the best way. There's so many resources, especially from an institution like Hopkins, so just actually taking advantage of them and putting it into practice, I think, is the best thing.
I know you have questions. So we have 2 microphones up here. So we'll take a couple minutes for questions. If you have one, just walk on up and feel free to ask our panelists whatever might be on your mind.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Just while we're waiting.
Sure.
I just wanted to say, I think that you guys should really take what Haley has given you, because she's at your age, right? And she's really used her networking skills, right? And she's taken a chance on herself, and she's done it twice, right? And really put herself in great position. So I think doing that and tap into her and LinkedIn her and use her resources. I mean, I think that, again, the whole idea of, writing down these 3 bullet points and sticking them on your mirror, she's obviously very organized and determined, so.
We have a question. Go ahead.
So hi, my name's Eleni, and my question is, if you could go back to when you were our age, what is something you would have told yourself then?
Who wants to take it? I'll take it.
I think I would have told myself, like, you are smart and you are capable. I know applying to a lot of jobs, I personally didn't have the highest GPA. As you all know, Hopkins is a very rigorous institution. It's hard to do well here. So I think just not comparing myself, okay, I'm not the girl with the 4.0, I'm not the girl with 20 extracurriculars, but I do have good grades. I do have some extracurriculars. I think the art of like being able to not compare yourself, but just to know your worth kind of as a standalone and tell yourself you are capable, you are smart, is definitely what I would have looked myself in the face and told myself at your age.
And I'll jump in on that. I'll say be confident, bet on yourself, because I think oftentimes, when you're coming in right out of school and you're not as knowledgeable as you're probably going to be, you just don't have the confidence. And I would just say, trust yourself, you know more than you think you know, and just be more confident.
I think in medicine, we always talk about the imposter syndrome, and I don't know if we talk about it elsewhere, but when you come out and you're an intern or you're learning medicine and you have to go into the emergency room and see someone or diagnose something, you sort of pretend like, okay, well, I've got to act like I know what I'm doing, but you have no idea. So I'm always asking a nurse like, hey, what's this, what's that, and then you get the confidence and you learn, but again, it's that confidence of just going in and taking the chance. And so that's what I would tell myself, because I think you're always doubting yourself, like, am I really good enough? Am I this? But yeah, like you said, you doubted yourself. Maybe I'm giving 70% of myself, but in reality, you're doing better than everybody else.
Well, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? We got some. All right.
You picked it off for me.
Free t-shirt for her.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm a senior on the field hockey team, and all of this feels very applicable to me. And I guess my question is, I think kind of now, being done and after college sports, it's easy to get caught up in whatever comes next, but how do you keep sports in your life or make time for that competitive outlet, or even staying involved with younger girls in sports too?
I can talk a little bit about that because I'm older than everybody else, but I've always been involved in sports. So I left and I wanted to stay involved because I'm competitive. I like to be active, and so that's where when you leave, all of a sudden you don't have that anymore. So I immediately started. Okay, well, I'm going to run this race. I'm going to do this triathlon. I purposely plan things throughout my life so I could always have something I was training for or working for. So to keep that competitive nature and also to keep that fitness level, because I think that's important, and you're so used to it. And so, what's that? So anyway, that helps because again, you're so used to doing it your whole life, right? That's all you've done your whole life, and so continuing it is very helpful.
I'll also say that keeping your competitive fire will persist. You can't shut it off. So I think you heard a couple examples up here already as far as bringing that competitiveness in a productive way, right? Not a ultra competitive way, but a productive way to whatever your next pursuit is, whether it's professional or another graduate degree or something. And then the other thing too is, Dr. West told a great story of the male-dominated industry that she's in. I've happened to be a part of them myself, between the military and aviation, engineering-centric. You guys have been, sorry guys, you ladies, right? I'm faulty of it too. We've been kind of sheltered in this idea that, hey, we're kind of part of this post-feminist society. Well, you're not. Okay, you're not. I thought it 20 years ago. 20 years ago when I was graduating, I was like, oh, that's for my mom's generation. Well, it's unfortunately not. And I think we still even see disparities here on campus between men's and women's sports and what you all get and what they get. And a lot of that's on us as alumni. We need to show up better for you all. But, time, is kind of on our side. We're going to keep building it. And just know that, your experience being part of a team, being collaborative with each other, and also having that fire is something that helps you kind of fuel yourself and gain that credibility that everybody needs in their next step wherever they end up going.
And going back to your question of how you make time is, I think at the end of the day, you make time for what's important to you. So I think post-grad, when you're not spending 4 to 6 hours a day on your sport, it's really okay. Who am I? What are my other interests besides the sport that I've dedicated my whole life to, being competitive, whether that's in a trivia league, maybe you're in a book club, you could join a run club. There's a lot of other things to kind of find identity in, that you can still be competitive and have a sense of community outside of sport itself.
We're all joining her trivia league following the meeting. You have a question?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Liza. Thank y'all for coming. So I know we're in a room full of all different age groups, and a lot of this stuff is like career-based and really applicable for, say, the juniors, seniors, and grad students. Do you have any advice for like the 18-year-olds sitting in this room who just got out of high school and are kind of like, I have no idea what I want to do in my life, I just got to college, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think you're a freshman or a sophomore and you're young and you've got a whole career or a whole lifetime ahead of you. And so I think that I always believed that it had to be so structured. I have to go and do this and get this grade and do this and look at always the next step forward. But now looking back, I'm like, God, I wish I had taken something different, taken a journalism class or taken something different than I'm going to be a medicine and biology and do this whole thing. And so I don't think you have to have this pathway exactly mapped out. You have to enjoy the ride also, because it's really the only time in your life that you're really going to get to learn all these great things and meet these great people in a diverse area of knowledge.
I'd say too, there's no bad experience. A lot of your learning is going to come outside of the classroom. So, get those summer internships, travel if you can. Travel is really important. Broaden your horizons if your team's able to take a trip or if you can fit that into a summer. I encourage you to do that. Life doesn't give you a syllabus, so the amount of opportunities that you have to kind of learn on the job or in that kind of unstructured environment is, I think, really important and really developmental.
All right, we have time for one more. We'll take yours.
Hi. Okay. I'm Greta. I'm on the women's basketball team. This kind of builds on the last question, but I was wondering if your current jobs have anything to do with your college majors.
So I majored in applied mathematics, and you heard, military, and then I got into sales and marketing. And I remember being in a meeting when I was very junior in my, corporate job, and some vice president was presenting information about customer surveys. She was drawing this incredible conclusion about we need to change our business strategy about something. I forget exactly what it was. And I'm some, new person, straight out of the military, don't know anything about aviation quite yet. And I ask a question, what's your sample size? And that particular slide was on a sample size of 1. And that's the kind of bullshit that happens in the business world sometimes. So no, my undergraduate degree is not directly related to anything that I am currently doing, but the foundations of critical thinking, problem solving that are applicable to practically every degree here at Johns Hopkins can be applied to a lot of different business and team-oriented settings.
And I majored in criminal justice, minored in business, so I do use the business and criminal justice. Arguably, I use that when going through law school and a little beyond. But like you said, Julie, I think there's a lot of critical sort of skills that you learn from, even though you might not do exactly what you're majoring in, you draw from it to use in what you ultimately do.
My major was econ, which is broadly related, but kind of back to what I was saying before about networking. If you are a completely unrelated major to the job you're applying for and your name is just on a paper, no other kind of warm introductions, then it might be harder to get a job if your major's completely unrelated. But if you network and your story to an actual person, your major can be as unrelated as you want. And as long as you have a story for why you want to go into that industry, why you want that job or that internship, your major doesn't matter as much.
And I was a biology major, as I said. So, I think that, again, looking back, though, I would have broadened my horizons and done something different, because now looking at it, when I interview medical students coming through, it's always interesting when they have a different background. They actually stand out much more than everyone else who's a biology major. So it makes you stand out more if you do something different.
I'm proud to report I do have a journalism degree. Thank you very much. I would like to thank our amazing panel. If you want to give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Amazing.